Hello.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. We are fine. How are you?
Great, great, great. Well, let's wait for a few to join.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So how's cold there?
Extremely cold.
I know, I can understand. Devji also
Yeah.
shared the photos of his house laden with
Yeah.
snow and all.
Yeah.
In Mumbai, there's no cold. Means we are just around 30, something like that.
Seriously, last week it was very cold, I heard in India.
Yeah, in northern parts.
Yeah. Now it has got to normal temperature again. In January, summer starts, right? Spring season
Uh,
starts.
no, almost around mid March or end of the March. But yeah, the cold starts receding in first week of Jan or so. That's right.
Yeah. That's why I like Indian climate much better.
No, yeah.
But snow has its own attraction.
Exactly. That's what I was, and it's kind of difference what we really like means the change in
Yes.
overall, or the growth, right?
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
I say it basically.
The first snow always brings smile, but
Hmm.
as
Later,
it keeps continuing, it will become a cry.
having challenges and all. That's true. The health
Yes.
challenges and all those things. That's right.
Yeah, our hands and everything are paining now after shoveling all that snow.
I know. I know. It's almost 2 hours job. I know. I was in St. Louis. Luckily, we had snow around like 5 to 6 times. Uh, uh,
Oh, yeah.
and but yeah, still you need to really fight with if you planning to go out or something like that. It's really
Yeah,
difficult. And then
that is very like it's a task.
I know.
Stuff yourself
Right, right,
and then go.
right. I used to like that car spinning thing on ice, right? So
Yeah.
I was near Washington University, St. Louis, and we had a big playground where in snow
Uh,
it's covered with ice. So we had means I had Mercury's Grand Marquis with 12 cylinder and all. So I used to go for a spinning and all. And
uh-huh.
I was lucky to have quite a good amount of friends there. So we enjoyed. Means I enjoyed at least 6, 7 winters there.
Oh, great. Mm. So, did your family come here with you?
Yeah, the second time my family was there during 2006, 2007, 2008.
Okay, good.
Previously,
Mm.
I was just, selected by an American company and I was there in Stamford, Connecticut. Then I moved to St. Louis. Then I roamed around a lot as a consultant. Second time, I was working with Putney. So, I
Mhm.
was leading their PMO. We were installing PMO. Plus, we got quite a few good red account into green. And that's how
Oh.
we had really matrices based, tracking system. And we will
Mm-hmm.
also see even the BA has some, as we say now, we plan and we monitor, we track, right? So how do we track? We will see those things in detail. How we track our work? How what do you mean by matrices? We will learn one of the important matrices called requirement traceability matrix, which every solution project or service has, so that we know if we have any leakages during the requirement or not, and how we are basically tracing one requirement or one wish list to a requirement to a functionality to a testing successful test, those kind of progress overall for each and every such discussion. That's why I said, like, we do record certain things whenever we start the meeting, we join the meeting, so that if I miss anything in writing or even inclusion in minutes of meeting, that's how that's what they call. So we
Hmm.
can basically refer to such recordings, or we can basically go through such recording, so that we can fill in the gaps. We shouldn't miss a even wish list also. That's what the overall BA books or PMI. See, there are two main bodies. If you look at the overall evolution of business analyst as an process or art or a science, what do you want to call it, we have something called the IIBA, International Business Analyst, and then we have PMI, Project Management Institute, right? So we try to gather the best practices from these two certifying authority. They do have certification for business analyst as a role, as an individual. So we try to analyze those things. We try to build on those thought processes, and we'll see the best practices of both of these. We've seen the of course definition of IIBA. So we understood like what a BA does in theoretical. We also discussed. We also understood each and every one of you's interpretation of it, right? And we will start building our knowledge base on that. Then we'll have a look at different tool sets, different must do's, good to have, and can be good if you can learn or if you know by any chance. And depending upon certain industry or certain cultural practices, we also see a couple of tool sets which are more prominent in certain regions. So we'll have a look at those also, so that we shouldn't miss anything. You are going to work in North America, that's very sure. So we know the best practices within North American region. We are working with almost 30 plus odd organizations for BA roles, and I believe you're going to be placed there, one of such organizations. So we'll try to understand how these organizations have been matured, what are the normal tool set these guys use, and we'll try to learn the best used tool set as of now. And then we also build our knowledge base on basis of how the overall a typical wish list, a typical business vision can be converted to a requirement, can be converted to a valid requirement, can be converted to functionality, can be converted to the test cases. Test case is basically a validation of those functionality whatever we list, right? Or validation of validated requirements we as an analyst list down. And functionality is basically it's get converted into product as it get applied, right? And then we have testing, which normally checks this functionality, right? So for these things we have that complete what you can say requirement traceability matrix, right? So we'll try to understand how this RTM gets created, gets tracked, those things also, because that's one of the crucial element, and that will make me as an BA, or each and every BA to understand how we have progressed from a typical wish list, right? Somebody said mera wala green, to a typical overall how we perceive the evolution of a wish list to a test case, test reporting, and then actual delivery in the product, solution, or project, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So, please keep asking questions throughout the, what you can say, throughout our session, so that let's make it two-way, right? Rather than me explaining and, you learning. Yes, Agastya, could you please speak up?
Yeah, sorry, that's my son's name. My name is Samya. I just wanted to make sure I'm in the right class. I'm looking for QA Selenium. If this is
No, ma'am, you're on the wrong class. This is a
uh,
business analyst, QA, QC, Agile Scrum. That's what the track is all about.
all right, thank
But it
you.
can still be there, I believe. No problem. Means
Um, no,
you want to
I
join
have
that
a
class,
class.
right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to
I
check
have a
out for the
class.
link. Yeah, please coordinate with your coordinator. He or she will guide you for the perfect link.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much, sir.
No problem, no problem. So yes,
Hey, uh, hi Ravindra, this is Deepthi. Uh, it is my name must be appearing as Vishal's iPhone. That's my husband's name.
okay, no problem. Could
So,
you can rename them? Means just right click on that name thing, and you can there's something called more, and you can convert it to for this session only, so that whenever you complete this session, it will get converted to Vishal's. So this thing happens.
oh, okay.
And what I
So
personally
shall I
suggest,
change it now? Shall I change
yeah,
it
that'll
now?
be better, ma'am,
Name
because
now?
I normally tend to refer this attendee's name, right? So
Yeah.
what I really would like to talk and would like to get feedback from you, so I'll use that name. Others, I'll call Vishal's name, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But how to change that name? Can
Okay, just go on the. Could you see somewhere attendees or participants? I don't know how they labeled it. Participants, I believe.
Yeah, it's listed at participants.
Yeah, so click on that participant things, and wherever is your name, there's two buttons called ask to mute and more. So click on more, and you'll get renaming thing. Yes, Madhuri ma'am, you want to speak something?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
See, I don't have any knowledge of computers.
Right.
The first time I'm doing the class.
I
Do
can
I
understand.
have to? Should I have to learn something else like basic computer?
See, you know how to switch on, switch off computer.
Yes.
You know how to use Microsoft Word, Excel.
Mm,
You can type letters.
yeah, I can do that.
Let's start with that. I think that's more than enough, and we'll learn the rest. Please don't worry. Just try to understand, as in, we try to relate to our real life problem, or real life scenarios, and from there we learn. And if you have any additional difficulty, we can have a separate additional class. Please don't worry on that part.
Okay.
Right? And
Thank
keep asking questions, because that's what make me comfortable. That's what make you comfortable, right?
Yes.
I can understand. If I want to walk an extra
So,
mile, yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sir, this is Deepthi. I just want to check. Say this is gonna be my first class for BA.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there in today's afternoon session at 12
Oh,
p.m.
right. I can understand. Sure,
Yeah,
Diti.
yeah.
You're Usha's
So
friend, right?
yeah, okay. Sorry.
You're Usha madam's friend.
Yeah, Usha's friend. Yeah.
Right. Usha is not there, but I don't know why. She's busy or something.
Yeah. I was there in today's counseling with Dev sir.
I don't know.
So
I answered you a couple of questions, I believe, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yes, the way
So-
this class is planned, we have business analysis. What we started 2 classes before. There are recordings available. I'll share them again for your convenience. If you're in a BAQS WhatsApp group, so you can go through them. We've just started basically. What we did, we try to understand what BA means to the world. There are 2 big certification authorities which we normally refer to for best practices. One of them is IIBA, another is PMI. Both are 40-plus-year-old organizations who are building these processes, right? So we understood their definition, we understood their way of what BA does, kind of scenario, right? And we are trying to basically go deep into BA learning now. We haven't touched any practical approach as such, and that's what we are going to walk through, if today or next class. Depends. We normally have classes on alternate days, right? And tomorrow there'll be a class for older batch, and we are basically completing Agile Scrum there. See, there are, as I told you, there are a couple of capsules within this training. First is business analyst, second is quality assurance, third is quality control, fourth is Agile and Scrum. So these all capsule makes one business analyst. Why? Because we are trying to create a critical resource. We are trying to create an employee for an IT organization, which will be really not easy to laid off in case of any layoff happens or cost cutting happens. That's how this overall training is planned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so for BA, we also need the QA and QC thing, quality analyst and quality control.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll tell you why. Because you normally, as in BA, as in business analyst, we analyze business vision, right? We convert business vision into a plan called system requirement specification. Pardon me for using this technical term, but you might have heard these things. These are kind of list of requirements which are get converted from the vision, right? And based on that, we do certain verification, validations type of processes, which will make sure whatever we as an analyst collected vision from the business has to be imbibed or embedded in the product, project, or solutions, so that we shouldn't miss anything. So the satisfaction is achieved 100% as far as processes goes. This is what the basic intention of understanding QA/QC, so that you can also do the testing. You can take a part as an advisory or in a reviewer capacity. And Agile Scrum makes you a real observer, real critical part in terms of, because you've created that vision, you have really conceived that vision to a requirements. You know the domain, you know the product, project, or services, whatever the company is developing, and you are the right person to have those meetings, those Scrum meetings, those agile project management methodologies and processes, so that whatever the progress happens, you are in complete reviewing or advisory capacity throughout the product life cycle or a project life cycle. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have included these all, parts of the training into one bundle, right? So this
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
life really interesting, believe me. Okay, so anybody else have any questions for me right now?
I have one question.
Please, ma'am, go ahead.
You sent a message on WhatsApp group that we are having some consulting. You sent an invite today in the morning. Uh,
Come again, please, ma'am. I couldn't hear you clearly.
some join our cloud HD video meeting. The message on the WhatsApp.
That's me. I send those things
So
within 30 minutes, within 12 hours.
So when it is?
We are doing it. This is the cloud HD meeting.
Oh, this. So you are saying that this is going to be every day?
No, ma'am. Alternate days.
Here it's every day until December 29th. December 29th.
Pardon me, sir. Let me have a look at that message. Oh shit! Sorry. Come on. Just give me a minute. I'll just validate it. It's not every day. We normally have our meeting. Where's that? Every day, every day, every day. It says occurrence every day. That's a planning challenge. So we have today. Then we'll have on Monday. We'll have we have Monday, Wednesday.
And
Sorry. Monday, Wednesday. Today is Friday, right?
yes.
Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah, alternate days. That's all.
Okay.
And for the older batch, you can also join to understand, what is Agile Scrum, or just have a, brush up for the other topics as well. Richam is going to take class tomorrow and day after tomorrow as well. For the Agile Scrum, for the pending things, because that's how, we got a guidance from the top management. We have to plan these, classes on weekends, because this has to be taken up with you guys. Because as we know, the employment does pick up in the first, second, or third week of January. So we need to be ready for that time. So that's how the whole courseware is getting tuned up.
Okay, I will try to sit with Rudra.
Sure, definitely. No problem.
So it's gonna be at the same time tomorrow, day after. I mean, Saturday and Sundays.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Okay. Okay.
I believe Richaji will be here in a few minutes, and she will guide you. And then we can also decide if you want to change timing or something like that.
No, I think we are fine with the timing, because by this time we are done with all the course and all.
Yeah, so that's how. And then we're going to take a workshop. So we're going to do a hands-on on how whatever we learned till date. This is for the last batch. This is for the the older participants. Older is not right word. Mature participant. Let's call them mature participant. So we're trying to assess whatever you learn. We're trying to we'll plan some one-on-one session, so that we'll understand your background in terms of education, analyst, whatever you learn, and we'll try to add the tuning to it. So if there are any major gaps, we'll have a couple of more classes with you, so that you can understand in depth what are things to be read or revised, or those things. And then we'll basically work on your profile, resumes, and then we'll start marketing those things. And then we'll have those interview planned. We are there to assist you throughout the overall interview process, as well as the on-job support also. So please don't worry. But still, that's the process I was trying to explain to you. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. That's what Devji normally explains in candidate session, and this is what the implementation part of it, right? So yes, I believe we as an participant, we understood the basics of business analyst, what analyst does, how the BA book looks at the analyst, as in we see in the theoretical definition. We also try to understand the RACI matrices, right? So we talked about responsible, accountable, consultant, and informed, and how these roles does categorize each and every person within the team, so that we can really refer to him or her as per her role throughout the development life cycle, throughout the work what we do as a team together, right? So we try to understand these things. This is crucial. I believe you had a look at the couple of videos which I shared on those things. So please review it again. This is a bit complex topic, but if you want to do a certification, this makes a lot of sense, because this is how the overall standard BA for business analysis fraternity looks at the overall roles and responsibility of each member, because we work in agile, we work in flexible project management approaches today, right? So understanding each and every roles responsibility is a crucial part, and then we labeled it according to these 4 buckets, so that we know who is responsible, who is accountable, who is to be consulted, and who is to be informed, right? We've seen in depth what is responsible means, what is accountable means. Responsible is you have to perform your part. Accountable is you are the final authority or approval. Consulted means these members has to be notified as per the status of the task. Inform means you can just update on a web page or email them saying this is done, this is what the progress status, that's done. Okay. And we also seen the stakeholder part of it, right? So stakeholder is basically these are the these are informed parties. So these are the eyes of the overall team members, where you normally share the status across. Me as an BA, I don't share the status, but overall as a project manager, or if you're working in a QA or Scrum capacity, then you have to be followed those distribution list, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, as we use something called cloud is kind of a server situated somewhere where we normally get connected to work on our business problem, business analysis, whatever duties assigned to us, right? So let's try to understand cloud. Who all know what you mean by cloud in terms of cloud computing? Anybody have understood, or anybody know cloud computing within
Just
our
the
team?
basic. Just the basic.
Okay, I'll try to explain then. Just take a few minutes and try to understand what does this cloud means, right? And why it's called cloud. See, cloud computing basically is very old concept, but now during I think 2010s and 5s, this have been really what you can say taken up to a new level. The internet is basically you have your computer connected to some group of computers where you normally share the information across, right? Now we have taken this internet the technology to a new level called cloud computing. Now rather than just correcting what I say, whatever I do on my computer, the storage part of it has to be shared across within certain groups, right? So the storage is shared rather than or the computer is shared across, right? Or the software is shared across. So what have these 3 type of clouds. So we have should I tell you this technique? Okay, let's try to understand. It's called platform as a service, so software as a service, infrastructure as a service, the computer, the hardware as a service, and SaaS, software as a service. So what do you mean by as a service? I have these 3 things available to get connected to get used to be with these connections. So this is what the cloud means. I don't really care about what I'm sharing. As an analyst, what I need to know, I have to get connected to my organizational cloud, and they will do the rest for me. So even if my laptop fails, even if my smartphone fails, I have everything stored on cloud. Why it's called cloud? Because we can't see it, we can't feel it, right? The cloud, like in the sky, you normally don't touch it unless you go to very cold place or a high place. But still you feel that it's a smoke, right? It's a smoke screen rather than a cloud. But we can see the cloud if you are really on a what you can say, on a ground running across any flat beds. So there you see the cloud. So cloud is basically not to be touched, but has to be experienced. That's how that cloud name came into picture. So what is cloud? Clouds is basically a network of computer which we use, which we leverage to get our work done. Well, that's plain and simple. Let's end it there. It's a kind of advanced internet. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion on this? Have you understood cloud?
Yeah, basically cloud is for, I think it's a centralized storage kind of thing, so that you can access it irrespective of the devices, right? That's what
Wow,
is
great,
my...
great. Yes, Deepti madam shared us the overall technical meaning of it. So
Yeah.
it's a kind of shared resources. That's what we call. In
Yeah,
IT,
irrespective of the devices, like I don't have these things only on my device. It's there on the cloud, so I can access it
exactly.
from anywhere. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I'm sharing the software, I'm sharing the infrastructure, I'm sharing the overall services as well, the platform as well, right? So SaaS, PaaS, and what all names. Deepti ma'am, we have quite a few people here which are never worked in IT as such. So if you worked in IT, you know all these mumbo jumbos and really good words or relevant words. That's what we can say. And we were still trying to learn. So I tend to explain these things in a layman's language as well.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I just wanted
No, no, no,
to
no, no, no,
clarify.
nothing to be sorry. You explain it really crisp and clear. Even I'm an IT person, so I like such words. But with the knowledge share, we need to make the others also understand. And you please keep speaking. Please don't stop. And there's nothing to be sorry about. We are all learning, right? These words does make sense, and these words what everybody has to use at the end of the day, right? So we need to
Right. So
learn
if
these.
we listen them more frequently, they'll automatically start using it.
Great, great. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, see, you are in a mentor chair, you are guiding everybody, and thanks for that. Let's learn it together. That's what I'll say. Does that make
Deepti, just
sense?
one question. Are you
Yes, ma'am.
Usha's friend?
Uh-huh. Come again, please.
I just wanted to ask Deepti ji, is she Usha's friend?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
Uka's friend.
yeah. I thought so because they both are similar. They both
Oh.
sound similar.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they are working in IT fraternity. Even Usha ma'am also working in IT fraternity. So they
Yeah,
know these really good words. And these,
exactly.
see, when you say shared resources, it looks really great, right? I'm doing something. But if you say, okay, I'm using others' computers, look like, okay, no, you shouldn't do that. So this word does make a lot of impact whenever you're working or whenever you're discussing. So we should use something like shared resources. We should use something like whenever I'm going online, means when I'm connected. So wherever I'm shared resources across cloud, this makes really good impact in terms of whenever you try to explain the overall scenario. One and the same thing at the end of the day, but still in every fraternity, like be it doctor, be it lawyers, they have their own type of linguistics to be used across. Nothing wrong in that, but that's how that culture have evolved, that's how the practices and processes have evolved. So we need to understand these things. And I believe I try to use the least possible of such thing, because I know there are certain personalities here, like Madhuri ji. She used the computer the least, I believe. And we have others as well which are still trying to learn, which are still trying to reach to that level. So we are basically walking with everybody, every one of them, and we'll try to discuss. So if anybody have any confusion, please just start speak, or you can raise hand or whatever you want to get it notified. And please do that. Let's keep this as a two-way session, so that the end result that you should learn, right? I'm not here to present myself as a senior or whatever. And please don't treat me as a mentor, treat me as your friend, and we'll learn together. That's how I look at the training. Okay, anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
I'm good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good. Lina ma'am, have you understood the cloud terminologies?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you,
No,
Dipti.
no problem, ma'am. No problem. Madhurji ji, have you understood the cloud terminology?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because we normally use the cloud day in, day out, whenever, as an employee, even this Zoom meeting is happening on the cloud. If you can see, we are recording this thing on a cloud. So cloud means we are using Zoom server and its storage. So whatever I talk, whatever I show you gets recorded on the cloud. Cloud is a server which is shared across, which is connected to the internet, and we use it all together jointly, right?
Yes.
Now let's try to go deeper into the terminology, right? So what we normally do, we do business analytics. We do certain processes called business analytics. We analyze business, right? We analyze the business vision. We get converted into the requirement. We do validate those requirements. We do create functionalities, or the team creates the functionality. The architects, the designer creates the functionality out of the requirement which business analysts have listed, depicted, design, or depicted is the right word, because we don't do design as an analyst. We do envisioning, we validate the vision, we align the vision according to the systems or solutions, and then hand it over to the development team. They basically design it. But to make certain requirements clarified, concise, I use certain tools called something like use case diagram, high level diagram. I use certain templates called system requirement specification, right? Test case reporting, and so on and so forth. We'll have a look at these things throughout our training, and we'll learn how to do these things as well, because as in part of business analyst, I need to learn certain things. I need to make sure I understand these what you can say, auditory artifact. What do you mean by auditory artifact? These are the documents, these are the artifacts which I create as a business analyst, or which I update as a business analyst. That's how they are labeled in the RT world. Auditory artifact, a really good word, and we should know. There's another we just discussed called RTM, requirement traceability matrix, right? So on and so forth. So we really learn these terminologies so that I can work. Even the business analysis fraternity will feel that I'm an analyst now, right? And that's where we want to reach. Now, what do you mean by intelligence? Intelligence is learning thyself, means I am learning myself. That's what the intelligence is all about. That's how the overall, psychology, the medical fraternity label intelligence as, right? So what do you mean by business intelligence? We are creating a solution. We are creating a software which will learn by itself. That's what we call business intelligence. So how it reaches there, we analyze certain things, we go further, and rather than keep doing analysis, we hand over the labeler's task to the software solution itself. So it start learning by itself. And that's how the business intelligence solution came into the picture, right? So if you look at the overall terminologies, this is how they have evolved. So there was analyst, there was intelligence, and there was a science. Now what is science? Now, when we say intelligence, we can decide on our own self, right? That's what we call intelligence. Now, when we say we are defining certain solutions, we are defining certain instruments, we are defining certain products which can make decisions on their own. Something like robots. When I tell the robots, get me cup of tea. So robot will do a swish, 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 and get you a cup of tea. Might be in 1 minute, might be in an hour. Depends on the machine, depends on its thinking, depends on its decision-making capabilities, and so on, so forth. This is what we call decision science, right? And if you look at the overall artificial intelligence type of solutions, we do have to include such analysis. We do have to, a certain analysis whenever we work with such self-intelligent solutions, right? We'll have a look at them whenever we do workshop. We'll try to understand how the robots have been evolved, what different type of analysis they do, right? And then there's something called data science. What is data science? Data science is a evolved branch of analysis where I do such research, how to build intelligent solution, how to build intelligent software, how to build intelligent product, or how to build or decide on the basis of data in hand. That's what is data science is. So decision based on the data whichever at hand, in hand, or analyzed by the solution itself rather than any manual effort or manual support. That's what the data science is all about. The definition is still not in place, but still we have a really big chunk of employees, big chunk of workforce working as a data scientist, and they are still trying to build the solution of self-intelligent solution. That's what we call them, right? And then there's something called data mining. What is data mining? We're trying to mine the correct data, the validated data from the solution or by the solution itself, right? So this is data mining. Data mining is in existence for last 30 odd years, and it's also evolving branch. So if I look at the business analysis fraternity, these are the separate entities which I can closely relate to, I can evolve to working in these in these areas. Does that make sense?
Sir, can you please repeat that data science thing?
Sure, no problem. Data science is a basically branch where I'm trying to understand, trying to analyze data one by one, and trying to create a solution which can take decision on its own. Let's think about a solution where we predict our environment, right? Predict these floods, predict the temperature changes, predict the different environmental calamities as well, right? How do you do that? the data science, batch of analysts have sat together for years all together. They try to understand the overall trends in the environment. They try to understand the effects happening in soil, in temperature, in sun rays angle, in the warm winds, and many other factors in that. So what they evolve all these 100 300 different data elements, makes the environment as is as of now whatever we are experiencing. So when we can understand if there's a cold front coming in, there are some data points which the robots or the sensory materials captured such data point, which basically give you an idea saying ki, hey boss, there's a cold front coming your way, so please get braced, please arrange your cold medicines, cold clothes, and or the warm clothes, and so on and so forth. So this way the data science fraternity is helping us as an generic individual, and building some excuse me, building some solution with analyzing the data scientifically, with the trend analysis, extrapolating the various equations and curves, take you to a level where we try to understand the changing scenario all across us. We have discussed about something called environmental data science. Means there's a branch in data science. So data science is basically a branch of analyzing data to a level where the solution can guide humans depending on the different data captured all across the sensors. And this is really coming into play because of we have now various sensors available at our fingertips. Your phone, your smartphone has allowed 21 to 36 different sensors inbuilt in that. Could you understand that? There's a motion sensor, there's a light sensor, there's a sound sensor, there's a vibrator type of sensors, there's a geometric sensor, there's a GPS sensors. I can go on and on. I work on Internet of Things called IOTA, and this is a basically scientific community which builds such sensor, which calibrates such sensors, and we as an robotic fraternity, embedded device fraternity, get those data from these sensors per minute, per nanoseconds, per millisecond, and whatnot, the way you calibrate it, and we build solutions based on that, so that I can predict these trends, I can predict these change in environment, or change in any solution type of things which are aligned to learn by the solution itself. So there's a least human intervention in learning and predicting. So this is a predictive methodology on the basis of the data collected by these sensors. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And it's called science because we use different equations like Laplace information, this information, that theorem. So that's why they kept it as a name called data science. It's still evolving branch, and we are still trying to build a definition for data science. And there's no definition for data scientist as well. You can Google. There are number of different definitions available, right? Anybody else have any question?
Yes. Sir, I have one question.
Okay. Let's go.
What is the difference between decision science and data science?
Wow, good question. I'll say data science is an evolutionary step. Decision science is basically, okay, the way AI works, the artificial intelligence work, what I tell, decision science is a robotic, way of telling act on basis of these two data nodes. Data science is basically present on basis of these two nodes. So data science is a kind of evolved branch, and data science normally don't work with robotics. Yeah, they work with, but normally they labeled to a very different level of AI than data science. Data science are normally labeled to the mechanical devices because the decisions are taking place and there's some actions involved. But this is again my perception. I can be wrong. See, these are still evolving terminologies. So to somebody, data science can be decision science, can be business intelligence, can be business analytics as well. Way I'm trying to explain it to you, because we should know this terminology and a bit of gray areas in them. So there can be overlapping, means robotics can be a part of data science as well, because normally the way solution comes across is like we have too many robots working together, right? So something like that. So it's a bit overlapping terminology, but still there's a bit of what I can say gray area or difference in them, but it's confusing. So let's not go there, and let's not try to dissect it as of now. We will learn these things, and if you can park your question till end of this course, or in last phases of this course, I can add more value to that. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so there are such different terminologies what we use. So if you the best takeaway from whatever discussion we have few minutes is basically business analyst is over a very evolving branch. We are basically growing into different solution giving scenarios where we normally closely work with such scientific community, such intelligence building community, robotics community, and so on and so forth. So business analyst is not at all a very, what I can say, generic bench, or not at all a very loose skill. It's really evolving into a great terminology and technologies, and we can basically knock our doors with these latest evolving technology whenever we want to excel ourselves, whenever we want to achieve certain really great things. We can walk to these different what I can say solutioning markets available across the BA fraternity, right? Now let's go, let's take a step back and try to understand analytics on basis of such processes what we follow, right? So let's try to understand. There are what you can say broad level 3 categories normally is discussed as far as analytics goes. So we have descriptive analysis, we have predictive analysis, and we have prescriptive analysis, right? So let's try to understand what is descriptive analysis. We try to analyze how things are on ground. Like I go and open my refrigerator and I'm thinking of assembling a dinner, or creating a dinner, or cooking a dinner. So what I'll do analyze of the things which are available in my refrigerator, in my fridge, right? So that I can basically decide on basis of whatever things available there, I can cook, I can build, I can assemble the dinner. I use 3 different words because that's how the culture is devised. That's how the culture basically differs overall, right? And there's something called predictive analysis. What I'll do, I'll have a camera installed on my doormat, installed on my garden, so that that camera can basically give me a beep whenever certain somebody tries to move across its visible length. So these are called motion sensors, right? These sensors report back to me whenever some movement happens in the vision of the camera. And this is done automatically, right? This is done by system to the human, those kind of things. So this is what you can say predictive analysis. So I have installed some sensors which can do such predictive analysis, and which is on the basis of truth, right? Because somebody have moved. It can be a dog, cat, or a human being. That the camera can't tell me at that time, because it's a very a non-intelligent type of sensor, but it's intelligent enough to tell me how the movement is taking place. This is what we call predictive analysis. So the sensors are predicting certain things to me. So what might happen, what have happened, and those are those scenarios where I have something called predictive analysis. And then there's something called prescriptive analysis. This is what we discuss, the robotic branch, or the branch data science branch, where we have a solution which can share us the what can be happen, what should we do, what is going to happen in the near future based on the data point collected. This is not astrology branch, right? Or astrology can be included in this if you believe astrology is a science, but please don't quote me for that. Prescriptive analytics is basically we are trying to define a trend, trying to understand the trend, and take the respective or retrospective actions, whatever we think may fit to the scenario. Could we understand, differentiate between these 3? Anybody can explain me the differences, whatever they understood? Anybody?
Maybe a real life example would help. Let's say a company approached us.
Uh-huh.
Let's say an insurance company or your state farm, right?
Right.
And they want us to do the business analysis because they want to achieve or do something better or introduce something to their
Right. Uh-huh.
company. So that is what we do. That what had happened that made them take this decision. So we asked that their needs, what has happened, and why this is happening. What is the question, right?
Right. Right. That's
Predictive
right.
means we gather the requirement and we suggest they based on their need what they need. Actually, I would say we recommend the solution. Okay, what
Mhm.
can happen if you imply this?
Right.
And prescriptive is I think I still don't follow the prescriptive, or be such like a suggestion to them, or I don't know what, but it's like a prescriptive as a name suggests that, oh, you have a cold, I'll prescribe you this. That is what,
That's right.
yeah, right?
That's the perfect thing, ma'am. You
Okay,
understood it correctly.
okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody wants
Yeah,
to add their
yes.
value? Yeah, please go ahead, Diti, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like she said, yeah, descriptive analysis is basically, to analyzing the situation, whatever we have in hand with our client, or whoever is whoever is the stakeholders. We need to
Right.
understand that what happened, or why we are here, right? There
Right.
is something to be done. There is some solution to be provided. That's why we are here. So what
Right.
happened, and then what might have happened, what are, between, to read try to read it between the lines, something which client, they are not able to, uh, it's like they have a vision. Their vision is not, I mean, their requirements are sometimes, it's not clear, the requirements. They
Right.
just have a vision, but they don't have the clear defined requirements.
Right.
So we need to read between the lines to understand and to make it into the requirement, so that it can be converted into the solution by the technical team.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the predictive analysis. Like, we need to do some predictions, or we need to, you know do something beyond their words, what they are saying, trying to understand that. And then prescriptive analysis is, basically, prescribing the solution. Okay, this is how we can go, discussing it with the technical teams and all. Like,
Right.
this is the right solution for this particular problem, or this particular
Perfect.
idea, or
Perfect. Right.
Perfect, perfect.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
thank
Okay.
you.
Anybody have any confusion, contradictions? I'll take it as no. Let's go ahead. So we understood the type of analysis. So more or less, all the analysis can be categorized into these three. Right. Now let's go ahead and try to understand how this descriptive, predictive, all these things work. So, what I normally analyze, if I analyze history, that's you can call it descriptive. So I'm trying to analyze on the basis of event happened, and I'm trying to just extrapolate, or rather, no, not extrapolate. I'm trying to detail the event depending upon various events data collection. So that's a descriptive, but this happens in the past. Predictive or prescriptive is whatever is going to happen in future. I'm trying to guess. This is a kind of trend rather than a guess. Guess is not a right word. I'm trying to analyze the trend, and after analyzing trend, then I can go to a prescriptive mode, so I can suggest one. Does that make sense? So
So
there's
it
the
is
analysis of
basically
history.
like divided into three, like present,
Right.
past, like what happened in past,
Uh-huh.
present, and prediction, like in future, and
Right.
prescribe the solution for the future, or recommend the solution for the
Perfect.
future.
Perfect. Now we are divided into two, because as an analyst, I need to understand what the solution falls in which category. Because wherever you work on something like AI, BI kind of scenario, those are prescriptive one. I'm trying to understand the trends here, and then there are separate tools which we must use, so that I am normally going to align to the business vision, align to the business needs, and then put these validated requirement in my document, and then pass it on to the development team. That's what the normally happens. Sorry, please go ahead. Any question for me?
No.
Okay, pardon me. I think I heard something. No problem. So, what I do normally, I do to analyze whatever work is given to me, whatever, analysis I am doing. Is it descriptive? Is it predictive? Or is it prescriptive? And there are certain different set of tools which I should or must use. And depending on the organization processes and policies, they will lend such tools to me. They'll provide such tools to me so that I can start analyzing, right? So more or less what I'm trying to understand is the way I should work, the way the results are expected out of me, and then how do I present it. We'll see to that now in depth, one by one, right? Now let's try to understand. Now, as an BA, I collect requirement. So how do I manage requirement? How do I basically, work with these requirement? It's we're going to learn now. So what I do, I collect business requirement. So what do I want it? With a vision, I'll try to understand the overall business vision from, let's say, VPHR, as we normally discuss, right? So I am an employee of Infosys. I am a business analyst working at Infosys with the sales manager to whom I am reporting, gone to office of State Farm, where I am meeting the client to understand their challenges in attendance management system. Within discussions, what I've really discussed is basically, why do I want it? I'll try to understand from the business vision, why was the need for the solution? Why State Farm needs to build an attendance management system, or why they want to enhance their attendance management system. So what my conclusions are, there are certain leakages, there are certain employees who are basically doing attendance for the others as well. So I want to really make the process disciplined, make the process automated, centralized, cloud-based, blah, 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 24/7. So as an analyst, I got a responsibility to build a solution for a State Farm for enhancing their attendance management system, right? I meet with the stakeholders. So I try to understand their wishes. I try to understand their needs, wants. These are different words, but if you look at the overall scenario level, they mean different thing. But on a ground, I'm trying to analyze their needs. I'm trying to analyze their requirement, or I'm trying to collect their requirement. That's what I do. So the stakeholders, in this case, the clients, the various client which we are having meeting with, they're trying to convey their wish list, they're trying to convey their need of the solution. So I'll take it as a requirement. I'll basically collect them as a requirement, and what I do, I basically try to create a solution out of it. So I'll solve their problems as a business analyst. So what I do, I normally suggest them biometrics, I normally suggest them iris scanners, I normally suggest them full body scanner. I can suggest them some drones with a camera hovering over the office and so on and so forth. So I can go to extreme level as well. But then I need to sit down and to think through, depending upon the collected requirement, which is the feasible scenario, how they can be best benefited so that they will not have any leakages in attendance management system. Plus they will have something called centralized solution. Plus they will have something called 24/7 centralized database and blah, blah, blah step. Okay. So this way I came up to a solution with something called iris scanner. So fingerprint, they can be replaced with the sticking tape, and there are some ways to bypass such system. So I have installed iris scanners to them. I have suggested iris scanners, and then I have discussed with them. I have got them validated, approved by the client, approved by even my organizational stakeholders or the approver authority, so that I can work on certain documents and present it to the development team. So what I do, I transition the requirement. I collected this requirement, I have validated the requirement, I have approved the requirement, and then I have transitioned the requirement to the development team. That's the overall process or flow of a requirement as far as me, business analyst, goes. This is what business analyst does. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion in these? This is, we've seen quite a few times. So I believe it's really, easy to understand. Now let's try to understand how we're going to study these requirements, right? So we're going to understand how the requirements are normally proposed. We're going to understand how the requirements get traveled to business analysts. Then we're going to understand how to trace this requirement. How to trace in the sense, we have to basically trace this requirement to a meeting or to an event where I've started collecting these requirements, and then I've elicited them. I have evolved them to a functionality. I have evolved them to a level where I can include them in a product, right? So I have to maintain these requirements. I need to get them validated, get them approved by certain stakeholders. Then I need to prioritize the requirement. Nowadays, we work in an environment what you call agile environment. It's called flexible environment. So what I do, I normally work with the client on day in, day out, and I try to give them a smaller chunk of product, smaller chunk of solution, so that they can test and come back to me with the additions, change request, and so on and so forth. So what I do normally, if they if they ask me to build a pen, right? So what I'll do, I'll build a cap and I'll tell them, okay, how do you like this cap? Do you want this color, that color, this shape, that size? They say yes, yes. Then what I'll do, I'll validate the requirement. I'll basically make sure which type of cap do they like, and I'll basically start producing such cap. Similar thing with the pen, similar thing with the refill, so on and so forth. So what I do development in bits and pieces rather than doing completely and then coming back with lots of what I can say unsatisfactory clients. What I do, I tend to go with the client. I work closely with the client, and that's what the all agility is all about. I prioritize these requirements depending on the client's need. So whatever clients guide me, I'll align my development processes, the software processes, so that the client is happy. Even I'm getting all the validations, support, and any help I can leverage from the client within all these requirement changes, requirement approvals, and overall I build the flexibility within our development procedure, right? So that's what the agility is all about. That's what the overall how the Scrum framework is planned, right? So those things, and then I build a kind of knowledge check overall, so that whatever I collected is in line with the client and get the approved from the client. And even whenever I transfer such knowledge within my company, within Infosys, to the development team, I'll build a check and validation, saying whatever I given to him, they understood it correctly, right? So this is what the whole requirement life cycle is all about, and we're going to learn each of these things in detail, in step by step, right? Let's go ahead and let's try to understand. So agenda is basically, first thing, we understand requirement, we trace the requirement, we maintain the requirement, we keep prioritizing this requirement based on weekly development cycle, weekly product cycle, or whatever we are working with, right? And then we assess these requirement changes, we intimate certain stakeholders, certain parties, and we get them approved. We also be ready for the scope flexibility. Scope flexibility means if I'm building a ballpoint pen, I can change it to the ink pen whenever I need to, because whenever the business guides to, and so on and so forth. And I normally maintain the requirement, maintain the scope. That's why nowadays business analyst is a live duty. Business analyst is normally with the product, project, or support throughout its life cycle. Let's try to understand life cycle. Life cycle is a word normally used throughout the IT fraternity for in start to finish type of overall work we do on a certain product, project, or a solution, right? And then we are so life cycle normally contains something called business vision. It starts with a business vision. It then basically encompasses the overall requirement gathering phase. These are called phases. So there's a life cycle of a product, project, or support, and there are phases in those, right? We go to understand this thing in depth whenever we are going to work on QA and QC, because quality assurance addresses in some phases, quality control addressed in other phases. And the agility is a framework which basically define how, what type of template, when to do this, when to do that, and those kind of scenario, right? So this is what we call normally software development life cycle, SDLC. So if somebody tells you what do you mean by SDLC, it's a software development life cycle. What we do, we try to go to client, try to understand vision, try to collect those vision in requirement. We get them, validified. We get them approved. We then give these requirement to the design team. Now I am a business analyst. I don't design software. The design software is done by architect or the designers, and it's a altogether different team. So as a business analyst, I take the vision of a business, concise the business vision into various requirements, and these requirements are given to the list of requirements given to the development team, which then the architect design, build functionality, and then create a product, project, or support vision and develop it, implement it, and then deploy it to the client and start supporting it. That's the overall life cycle we talk about. So one vision can be built into product, project, or support and delivered back to the client. That's the overall SDLC we talked about, right?
Sir,
Anybody? Yeah, please go ahead.
sir, I think I missed that. What is this tracing requirement and maintaining requirements?
Yes, that's really great questions. Tracing requirement, we need to trace the requirement to a origin, right? Why we need to trace it to the origin? Because after 6 months, somebody might came, right? Somebody might leave the organization, right? In a client place as well. If somebody have seen my mera wala green pen, right? This thing happens. Now he left the organization. And whenever somebody questions you, why you develop green pen? So I have a requirement included in my minutes of meeting, included in my requirement document, which has to be traced in a meeting happened on 2nd December 1999, which is basically approved and sanctioned by such and such stakeholder, so that we've included in our project solution or support. So I have to trace this requirement. So whatever I do for a client, it's for a reason. It's not like I think it on my own and start developing it for a client, right? So that's how this traceability is really important for each and every solution, support, or a project. Does that make sense?
So tracing is basically, recording or, maintaining the proofs of, or,
That's
maybe,
right. That's right.
yeah,
Auditory
maintaining
proofs.
the
That's what the word I use. Auditory proofs. Auditory
auditory
artifact.
proofs. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Anybody else have any question?
And maintaining requirements is,
You normally track the progress, right? The business
okay.
vision has been converted to the requirement, has been converted to the functionality, has been converted to the test cases, test case report, included in the project, product or support, and delivered to the client. So one wish list has been converted to a product functioning, right? And that's what the overall trace, that's what the overall maintenance of the requirement calls about. Because
Thank
we
you.
normally have different version of product, right? So a requirement can go into this version. Version is basically the release, right? In agility we do incrementally. So one increment can have, one increment can't have, and this is like phase 3 requirement. So this will be done in January or February. These kind of even dates, results does matter a lot. These are called a release timeline. So whatever I release the product to the client, and whichever product release has those requirement included as a functionality, that's also kind of maintenance of the requirement.
Okay.
This is how
Yeah.
I trace the requirement, I maintain the requirement. We'll have these things detail in whenever we do QA/QC, because there we check these requirements. If it's included in completeness, if it's not, then how I can build it iteratively and so on and so forth. So I know a bit confusing right now, but yeah, let's try to understand in depth as and we go ahead.
Yeah.
Anybody
Thank you.
else have any questions? Please go ahead.
Approve the changes, approve the requirement changes, but do we approve or stakeholders approve? It's like
Stakeholders approved. To be precise, I think client have a representative. We normally label it as a product owner. He approves those things. But for a normal day-to-day activity, me as a business analyst, because I have evolved the vision to the requirement, right? So me as a business analyst, in some of the daily capacity, I am a kind of approver for quite a few of those requirements. But if there are any major decisions, I normally refer to the product owner, the guy who shared the vision with you. who shared the VPHR the way we normally discuss it, who have come up to the our sales manager saying, I want to enhance my business attendance management systems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then the scope flexibility. Why do at this stage? Why do we have to check the flexibility? Aren't we supposed to be doing at the time of planning and understanding if there is any flexibility or there is a room for flexibility? Why do we have to put it here? The scope flexibility.
Very great question, ma'am. Why it's great question? Because unless and until you build the flexibility from the start, you will not be flexible. Let me take a normal day-to-day life example, right? If I don't walk for 6 months, can I walk in the 7th month? No, because I'm sitting on a chair, I'm sleeping on a bed for last 6 months. I can't just stand and start walking because my muscles are not ready. I'm not built that way. So what I have to do, I have to start practicing walking every day. It can be bit by bit. So that's kind of, it has to be designed that way. Unless and until we have those requirements included from the start, you couldn't have that flexibility inbuilt, right? We've tried to understand this thing also in a different software development life cycle which we use. There's something called waterfall. So waterfall is a sequential execution of phases, one after the other. Agile is a collaborative phase definition. So we have requirement gathering at one place, we have designing at the same time of some different part of the product, and we have release of some part of the product as well at the same time. So we work in parallel, we work collaboratively in Agile, and this makes the software life cycle more looks towards the client satisfaction. That's how we perceive it, that's how it's evolved. So we will discuss in depth when we try to learn software development life cycle in quality assurance. Okay, but as of now, if we don't have those things inbuilt from a start, it's really difficult to include such thing after certain time. So we normally have this included from start, the flexibility, right? So that's why we have something called weekly iteration or sprints. I'm going into too technical, sorry. Does that confuse you or does that answer your question, ma'am?
Okay, yeah, I understood. Yeah.
Okay, great, no problem. We'll learn in depth, slowly, steadily. Okay, be with me for that. Anybody else have any question for me?
What is the long form of SDLC?
Software Development Life Cycle.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem, ma'am. Okay, now let's try to understand what does requirement mean from project management institute. Come on, yeah. Requirements, what type of process we associated with requirement collections and how do we do these things. Okay, this is a project management institute called PMI Institute. Is one of the most matured institute for processes and most matured institute for all project manager, so that they get certified with this institute and they have certain processes and follow-ups, right? So as an BA, I need to follow these things. Let's try to understand these words. These words are important because we are going to join an IT fraternity, right? And there they use these words. So let's try to understand or make ourselves comfortable with such words. Okay, let's try to understand project charter. What is a project charter? Project charter is a document or is an order which is basically assigned to a project or assigned to a temporary work which we took in hand. Okay, let's talk about, I want to make a cake. This is a kind of project charter. This is a kind of wish list which is a finite and clear enough so that I can understand it's a temporary endeavor, what they call it. A project is a temporary endeavor. So I'm planning to do certain things for certain time only. It's not a repetitive. So project charter is such endeavor. So if I'm doing something like tea, everyday tea making is everyday project charter. So I get up in the morning, I make a tea or coffee, whatever you like. Please don't quote me on that. So I make a tea, that's my project charter every day. It's a repetitive activity. So it's a repetitive project charter at a day. But when I say I decided to make a tea, decided to cook a cake for, let's say, my birthday, any other's birthday. That's a kind of project charter I'm talking about. So it's a kind of temporary endeavor planned within the team, within the organizations, or within the region, whatever it may be. Okay, so let's try to understand how we normally go about it. So what I do, I create certain plan. I need to plan, right? I need to plan each and every my activity. Even as a business analyst, I do plan my own activities. So I go to a level where I start planning for a project management plan. What is project management plan? So I'll start building a plan for the cake. What I need to have that flour, no, not flour, flour, the atta. Then I need to have sugar. I need to have that, what do you call, oh man, yeast. I need to have certain, honeys, whatever inclusions and all those things. So what I'll try to do, I'll try to build a scope for that. So what type of cake do I need? I need to have, let's say, any cake. Let's say I want to have a cream cake. So how do I make a cream cake? I need to build a basic cake base. Then I need to get the cream and those all nitty gritties, all those assorted accessories which I need to put on that and those things. So what I'll do something called requirement management plan. I'll try to analyze requirement. Did I started baking cake? No, I'm just thinking through. I'm building the vision. I'm trying to collect the requirement to build a cake. Are you understanding? Are we clear on that? I'm still not started building anything. I'm just thinking it through. I'm planning it in depth. So this is how I do normally for a given project. I do a scope management. I do a requirement management. I do a stakeholder management. What is stakeholder management? I normally go and meet somebody whom they're going to eat my cake. So I'll check with my family. What type of cake do they like? Do they like, chocolate cake? Do they like cream cake, or what type of cake do they like? And then I'll align my vision accordingly. Okay. And then this project document. So I try to create some documents. I try to build something, because whatever I'm doing in as a relationship between two different organizations, right? So the overall weight and the girth of overall what am I doing reflects quite a few number of people, right? Or rather two big organizations here. So what I'll do, I'll try to create some documentation. I'll try to create an assumption log. So what I assume, I have a flour, but I need to get some, more. I have a chocolate. If I want to, I have decided to make a chocolate cake, but I need another kg of chocolate. And I try to list down these things. So I try to understand if there are any knowledge base available, any lesson learns type of documents available within my organizations, within Infosys, so that I can make an effective planning, right? I can do effective planning. Then I'll build a stakeholder register. It's just a list of name and name and designation. So whoever are playing as a stakeholder within my product span, within my project charter plan, I'll include those in my stakeholder register. And then I build this business case. I build this business vision, right? Whatever shared by the client, and I'll try to build a document out of this, so that whatever I've collected as in data is with me permanently, and I can share it across within my team as well. If there are more analysts, or there are more team members working with me, right? And then I'll have some agreements, some disagreements, we'll reach to a decisions. And then I'll also consider the environmental factors, the policies and the processes which are already included in my company, which I need to be followed. And then the organizational processes assets. How can I use the cloud services of Infosys? How can I use the laptop given by Infosys? How can I use the login given for a team meeting, Google Meet, which is given to me by the Infosys? So these are all inputs in my overall started building that vision, or started creating those requirements and getting them validated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
yeah, this is really heavy, but this is going to the nth level detailing, and this is how the processes are matured. These words do play an important role in every day-to-day business analyst job cycle. So that's why I want to make you comfortable. And last time in the last participant batch, I forgot to mention these things. Pardon me for that. So this is new for them as well. So, the Santosh, Revati, Rudra, pardon me for that. I forgot to include this slide. And rather, I really, got to know, like, this is also important. This is basically a project manager's, reference document or reference slide. I normally took it for the project manager's, training material. But I have included for analysis just one slide. They have certain 60 slide for a project manager, but this is most relevant to a business analyst. So as a project manager or as a project in charge, I do check these things, like if the business analyst have an assumption log with him or her, so that I know he or she have thought through while collecting the inputs, collecting the requirement, collecting the business vision. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion or any contradiction with my thought process or description?
I'm good.
Nope.
Okay, great. So let's go to the tools and technologies, tools or techniques which are supported by my organizations, right? So what different tools I can use? I can use something called expert judgment. I can take a help of something called subject matter expert, center of excellence, or I can take a help from a senior person, senior business analyst, and so on and so forth. So these are the different facilities and tools and techniques available to me as an BA, right? I do data gathering, right? I do data gathering with these tools called brainstorming. We'll have a look at each of these tools in depth in preceding classes. So let's try to understand brainstorming. I do interviews, I do focus group discussions, I do questionnaires and surveys. These are the online discussions which we have normally nowadays. Then I do something called benchmarking, the industry best practices, the averaging out of the data and those things. I do analyze data, I do analyze documents as well, right? And for a decision, I normally go for something called approval mechanisms. I do voting, I do multi-criteria decision analysis. Okay, this is again multi-criteria in the sense I have given multiple choices to them. This is like having multiple choices and trying to understand whoever thinks best in those relevant decisions, right? And then I represent the data. I build some use case diagram, I build some affinity diagram, I build some mind mapping if there's a need of an organizations, because nowadays normally we don't create such a complex decisions. So I normally use just the use case diagram or high level diagram. Those two diagrams are sufficient for a matured IT organization also, so that whatever I collected as a requirement has to be depicted in these two diagrams and included in the SRS. SRS is a document, the system requirement specification is a document which me as a business analyst is author. I create this document from a template and start including these requirements whichever I collected from the client. Even I include his vision, I include his wish list, so that whatever we discuss, whatever the data I've collected from the client goes into the SRS. Okay, so SRS is the main tool which I use, which is a necessity in my, maximum IT organizations. The SRS can be labeled as requirement document or list of requirements or so on and so forth. So there are various different label used, but the standard label in Infosys, Accenture, Cognizant, and the most consulting word is requirement specification document. So that's why we call them SRS, and I'll talk it as an SRS throughout this training course, right? Okay, so we use these tool set. Then I use some interpersonal team skills as well. So what I do, I normally discuss certain things off the record. I discuss certain things informally also, and those decisions or those learning also to be included in this thing. So we can use something like nominal group technique. So I normally collect a couple of my friends and go to discuss certain things with him. Then I do observe their working, I do observe their shop floor working, I do observe how they are making pens, I do observe how they are doing their attendance currently, so that then I can understand where I need to get it evolved to, where I need to enhance it to, and those scenario. I do converse with the employees so that I know their problems also. Whatever solution I'm going to give will help them in a great thing. And then I'll do some facilitation also. I go I discuss, I try to understand, will this work, this won't work, and those scenarios. And then I can build something called context diagram. Context diagram are basically a conceptual diagrams where, and this is what I talk about, HLD, high level diagrams. I build a bird's eye view. So what I'll do, I'll list down a requirement on one box. I'll list down the different solutions in different boxes. So I have a one box and I have a corresponding 5 or 6 box, which are basically there to solve these requirement or solve their business vision, business problem, which are shared with me as a business analyst, right? And then I might build a prototype, right? If I'm trying to build a complex system, rather than waiting for the big result, big system to be built, I build a smaller version of it. It's called proof of concept or prototyping. So this is also a technique which is used to basically create more satisfaction and create or capture the exact need of what the client is thinking. Because my version of green can be different version from your green, right? Because I can take a capsicum from a vegetable basket and say, ye mera wala green hai. But whenever you come to me, you say, you might carry, carry a leaf of your favorite tea saying, okay, this is mera wala green. So this thing also happen. So we do POC, we do prototypes in quite a, good complex system so that we zero down on the exact dream, right? And then what the, output I create requirement documentation, I create SRS, I create RTM, which is also included in the SRS. Does this make sense? I know it's a bit complex at this moment, but we're going to learn these words. And I'll refer to this slide quite a few times throughout our training. So anybody does have any questions, contradictions, or any clarification they need, please go ahead.
Sir, prototypes are basically models.
They can be certain working parts of the solution as well. Yeah, they can be models as well. So these are basically to depict, or these are basically to, show the client what they want and what we are thinking. We are on the same line. So those kind of scenario. So if you're trying to build a smartphone, well, nowadays smartphone are too much evolved. But if you're trying to, build a phone, you'll show them there'll be some buttons, there'll be some, screen, so that the phone can, blink, throw light and those things, and so on and so forth. So prototype or modeling, yes, is one and the same word, but used in different contexts and can have different meaning as well. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yeah.
No problem. Anybody else have any questions?
So basically, you are saying we are using all these tools to create the documents like the SRS or BRD.
That's ma'am. That's right, ma'am. Perfect. That's right. And we're going to learn each and every of these things, even those tools and techniques. And even, we're going to discuss SRS templates. You're going to fill the SRS template, and that's what the workshop is all about. So we do hands-on, throughout the training.
I'm a little confused here because the business requirement document or SRS are basically the first step of any project.
That's right.
So
you're right.
So in the first step, if we are doing all the decision making, voting with the team and all, and we are even doing some retrospection and all.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are, these things usually happen at the the decision making and all we are using in Agile, we use planning poker and all those things. So these things happen at the later part of the SDLC or
No, you're getting confused with the estimation. You're getting confused with the lots of phases. I can understand. I can see where you're coming from. Okay. Now the others, please pardon me. We are going into basically trying to level out overall SDLC phase and its tools and techniques. Okay. Nowadays, when you work on Agile, right, there are quite a few concurrent phases going on. So these tools and techniques solve the overall requirement for solve the necessity for all the other phases as well. So when you talked about, let's say, observation and conversation, right? So what we do, I'm talking about an observation to be done by an analyst of a shopping floor or of a factory. So during even requirement realization or requirement clarification, I do certain observation, I do certain conversation, I go and talk to these on shop floor type of guys, so that I know the problems, I know the challenges on ground and in depth, so that because I want to hear from the horse mouth, right? So I want to go there, I want to understand them, and those kind of scenario what I'm talking about. So even requirements gathering itself is a project. Could you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about such project. So there is a requirement gathering project, which is a requirement gathering phase. Then there's designing these requirement or conceptualization of the solution from the collected requirement. So there's a solution conceptualization phase, and then I build some HLDs, high level diagrams, where I try to conceptualize the solution itself. So I do a bit of construction. So I take certain decision, I get them approved. Yes, that's definitely I do. Do I construct the solution? No, I'm not doing development. I'm not doing any, what you can say, creating or building the pane. I might create one pane or two pane, depending on if I need to, at all generate a proof of concept or a prototype. Yes, I do. With the help of some team. I don't do it personally. We will work in a team. But still, there's a construction can be part of the overall requirement gathering, so that I'll clarify the requirement to a depth, right? And then whenever I create the pen, I might need to display it to the client, right? So I go and present it to them, saying, okay, this is how it looks. Does it really aligns with your requirement? Does it really, what you're looking for? He say yes, no, this, that, I need that cap to be angled at so and so degree and so on and so forth. So I'll include those things in my requirement. I'm still in the requirement gathering phase. I am still trying to elicit the requirement. I am still trying to capture maximum satisfaction for whatever I'm doing in terms of requirement gathering. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Anybody else have any confusion? Yeah, we are discussing a bit ahead, so please don't worry, and we'll get those things doubts clarified also, right? So let's go ahead. Now we need to gather requirement. Let's try to understand how we do proceed, how we collect the requirement, and what type of requirements I need to collect. Now these type of requirements, depending on the roles and the overall responsibility, the guy who is giving or sharing the wish list with you, right? So I'm trying to understand how to collect requirement in depth. We talked about example, right, where I'm working as a part of I am part of organization called Infosys, working as a business analyst. I normally closely working with somebody called sales manager, who is coordinating with a company called State Farm and trying to collect their requirement for enhancing their attendance management system, right? So what I'm trying to do, what actually on ground I do, let's try to understand in depth. So there are certain business requirements. So what is business requirement? These are basically high level needs of the organization as a whole. And these basically solve many business issues and have opportunity and reasons of a project or a solution have to be undertaken, right? So we are basically looking at a bird's level view or a top level view, where I'm trying to understand what State Farm needs. So what State Farm needs? State Farm needs a attendance management solution. The attendance management to be enhanced to a level where they will not have any leakages, they will not have any shortcomings, they will have a complete what I can say foolproof attendance management system, which is centralized, which is uniform throughout their organizations, which is on for 24/7 and blah 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 blah. Okay, so these are basically business requirement. And then there are stakeholder requirement. What stakeholder requirements are? Stakeholder, one of them might say, I need 24/7. I need to have this system available throughout US, Spain, Canada, France, Italy, and so on and so forth. So these are specific stakeholder requirements, stakeholder wish list, which I collect whenever I discuss such things with them. Nowadays, everything done on the online meet scenario. So I discuss these things at a length with such group or such people in the meeting, so that I collect these requirements as an business requirement, the top level requirement. Then there are stakeholder requirement. So what are the descriptive things which I need to add to the business requirement? And then I create a kind of validated functionality to be included in my solution. So these are solution requirement. So I conceive or I basically build or envision a solution which will basically fit the need of the requirement, fit the need of the state farm to solve all his business problem, all his stakeholder wish list. So I include these things. I try to build some functionalities. So what I do, I build some features, I build some functionalities, I build some characteristics of a product, service, or a project, so that which will meet or solve these all business requirements or business problems or stakeholder wish list, so that they'll be happy and they'll pay me for those things, right? So in terms, whenever I develop this product for these guys, give the solution to these guys, they pay me. And that's how Infosys work. That's how Infosys get their revenue. Okay, so all these solutions which are basically going to solve their business problem, and me as an Infosys or a development partner trying to build this solution for them. So I detail these solutions element. So I detail these features, functionality, and characteristics of a product, project, or service, and build something called functional requirements. Previously, in good old days, before 10 to 15 years, BA used to create something called functional requirement specification. That's the next level document of requirement specification document or SRS, right? So system requirement specification. What functional requirements have? Normally, they have a list of all functionality to be included in the given project, product, or support, right? So all these, actions, processes, data, interactions that the product should execute are listed in FRS, functional requirement specification. Nowadays, functional requirement specification is a, purview or is a responsibility of a development team. And normally, solution architect and a project manager jointly execute that document called functional requirement specification, FRS. We'll try to understand in depth what the FRS is all about. Okay, and the FRS also includes something called non-functional requirement. Even SRS includes non-functional requirement. What are non-functional requirement? These are all supplementary requirement which basically depict a need of functionality. What is the need of functionality? This has to be worked in a code. This has to be worked in such and such speed. This has to be worked in, with different scenarios and possibilities. So I'm trying to include something like reliability, security, performance, safety measures, levels of service, supportability, and blah, blah, blah things. So all the things which are non-functional requirements are not functional requirements are categorized as non-functional requirement. I know this complicate a matter a bit, but we'll study this thing in depth as and when we go ahead, right? So there are functional requirement and there are non-functional requirement which we include in our SRS, right? Let's move a step ahead. Then we have something called transition and readiness requirement. So we need to basically understand when the clients need a solution, when is the best to hand over the solution to the client, and which is the best step to get it implemented, right? So if I'm trying to give them an attendance management solution, attendance normally goes throughout 365 days, 24/7, because there are shifts and those things. So any day is better, right? So whenever I can transition this solution to them is best for them as early as possible. So those kind of scenario. So these are my readiness requirements. These are my transitioning requirement, right? And I need to get it ready with all the environment. So if I have decided to implement iris scanner, I need to procure some iris scanner and show it them. This is how it works, right? So those training requirements and everything also comes in part of the overall solution requirement, right? So there are some project requirement. So what we do, we normally try to understand the action, processes, and other condition of the project products supports needs to meet, right? So this includes normally the release date, the contractual obligations, the constraint, the performance measures. So if I can't do it before, let's say, before Thanksgiving or before Christmas for that matters, or before New Year's Eve, if the client have planned those critical dates, I need to make sure I deliver before that. Otherwise, the delivery doesn't make sense to them, or there's a repercussion, there's some financial constraint and so on and so forth. So these things happen. So I need to consider these requirements and include these requirements in my SRS as well. These are different type of requirements which make the product, project, or support complete in itself, right? So I need to consider all these type of requirements, even quality requirement. These captures basically the condition or criteria need to validate successful completion. So this talks about the performance requirement. This talks about the overall, test has to be done, certain certification or conditions, or any validations if they need from, let's say, governmental organizations, from the local environmental authority, and so on and so forth. So all these requirements have to be included and the made before we sign off or hand over the product to the our client. That's the overall requirement categorization or requirement processes as a business I follow. But there's an organization to support me as an BA wherever I work in. And as an Infosys is a very mature organization, very IT. They are doing this thing from last 40 or 45 odd years. So we have all the processes matured. So there are hardly 10 to 15 responsibilities which I need to cater to, which I need to support to. So I have templates for everything. I just need to fill in the blanks and deploy these documents to the cloud. But wherever I create this document and say I close this document, I save this document, it's get distributed overall to the cloud environment. So I need to make sure wherever I work, wherever I do, I need to have those distribution list in place, if not given by the cloud administrator. But normally it's given by the cloud administrator, so I don't have to worry about those things as well, right? Does this make sense? Any questions for me at this moment? Okay, I take it we have all the details we need and we discussed it at length. So I believe you have understood these things, right? If you have any questions, you can ask me anytime. Please don't worry. Okay, let's go. Let's try to understand how BA works with a different type of working environments. So there are some product company, there are some consulting company, there are some overall solutioning company, and there are some organization which try to achieve goals by digital transformation also. Let's try to understand how the overall BA career track can progress, and how BA normally function in such environments. So a product company, what product company does, product company basically analyzes certain markets for certain product to be built. It basically associates with a project manager and try to analyze this research, whatever we did on a market, try to build a product, try to build an vision out of those analysts and take it to a manager or a product manager who basically in charge of overall product building, right? And this is also career progression for BA as well. So you can start as a business analyst in a typical product company, go to associate product manager level, and then get promoted to a product manager. That's how overall BA normally progresses. This is a kind of overall 1 year to 5 year type of planning which I have think it through and I'm sharing with you. In a consulting organization, business analyst can be in a consulting role. He builds some strategic initiative, he initiates some strategic initiative, he presents these strategic improvement initiatives to various domain consultants, discuss with them, discuss with subject matter experts, try to align it with the business goals, try to be a principal architect in building such strategies and processes so that everybody else will be supported within the organizations and then can be migrated to the organization, a partner in the organizations, which is at a level of owner, right? So this kind of a normal progression in a consulting organizations. In a solution organizations, normally organizations which give various software solutions to various organizations or development partners. Normally a business analyst can be moved to a senior business analyst, can be a business architect. So you design and architect the product, right? So you build from a conception, you build a detailed design diagram or architecture diagram from the HLD, whatever you created. You assign technology, platform, methodology, framework to these HLDs which you have created, build a complete architecture out of it, try to understand what type of classes, methods, third-party components to use to get that overall solution in place, and then you can be a senior business architect, then you can be a CTO and those levels as well. For a digital transformation type of organizations where I'm helping the governments, even PSU to go to a level where I'm trying to build a digital transformation to the overall community. I start as a business analyst. I go to a mid-level business analyst so that I build this transformation processes and policies in place. I try to tune it according to the given organizations or a given enterprise. So I can be an enterprise architect. Then I can go to a level where I am basically trying to initiate such new visions, new strategies in place, new policies in place, and then I take it I implement it throughout the organization, and then I can be at a CXO level. So these are the normal career progressions for a BA, and their roles and responsibility or alignment towards these different type of organizations we have, and there could be many more as well. I've just took the most most 5 occurrences throughout this industry. Does anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
Raviji, can you give some real life example of each of this, like BA with products, BA with consulting, like real life example, like name
Yes,
this all 4 different models?
Sure. Let's consider a product company.
Okay.
Which one? Okay, let's consider State Farm, right? State Farm is a product company because they have certain products called insurance products. They sell insurance product. So how I can help them as a product? I can help them to build some better products for an insurance product. So what I can do, if I'm working in something called vehicle insurance product category, right? So they have, let's say, 10 to different vehicle insurance, a type of vehicle insurance. They call it third party, single party, that party, and means I'm just thinking loud here right now. So what I'll do, I'll try to enhance their product to a level where 2 different policy can be clubbed and merged, and the software also support them. Software as in the product which are going to basically build that different insurance product outcome for them. So I'll modify the processes within State Farm to create a better product or enhanced product, right? That's their bread and butter, which I'm supporting or enhancing as a development partner. In a consulting, I'll consulting them for enhancing their attendance management solution. So I've gone there, I've seen, like, there are guys, whenever the supervisor is talking on a phone or talking with somebody, one guy can be signed for 6-7 different guys, and that way we have something called attendance proliferation. So many such guys just walk through the door and they'll start working, and many such guys who have not came to the office also getting paid for their working. So these things happen. So to make it disciplined, make it more foolproof, I try to build something called ID scanner based attendance management system. So I implement ID scanner to them. I enhance their attendance management system to a level where now the attendance is getting done with a without the least leakage, with automated way, 24/7, and so on and so forth. So as a consultant, I'm helping State Farm. As a consultant, I'm not an employee. Product, there I can be an employee so that I can enhance their product internally. Consulting are normally a consulting role or a consultant from outside as well, which can help the organization to get the product better or to enhance their processes or policies to a level where the complete organization is getting benefited from. Okay, and then as a business architect, or again, architect or designer is a fraternity where we normally tend to build a better solution, better design for a given product or for a services or a project, so that we can get it done with the best efficiency and least cost. So that's the alignment here. So build a product with the least cost or best efficiency possible, so can get the development fast track to couple of months than more months. So I can do that. I can reduce the cost, so I can suggest them a third party product so that they can start procuring that and getting included in their product, so that they'll save lots of money. So those kind of scenario. And in digital transformation, I can invent or I can suggest a best way to get the documents converted to the digital format. So if there are some handwritten notes, I invent an OCR technique, so that optical character recognition technique, so that the handwriting is a better match to convert it to a digital conversion with the least possible time and with the effective way. Okay, so these are the different examples for these different partygrams, and there could be many more as well. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Anybody else have any confusion, or wants to understand anything in depth? Okay, let's go ahead. Now let's try to understand BA from a philosophical perspective and how we implement in our day-to-day. What do you mean by an analysis? What we do day in, day out. So what we do on the left hand side, we are trying to analyze input, and from a right hand side, we are trying to take as an output. That's a normal progression, right? From a left to right. So what we do, we try to understand the mission of a business, the mission of a principal, the CXO level guys, the delegates. We try to understand the goals, what they try to achieve. These are all aspirations we collect, right? And when we build measures, we build certain data points, we collect certain methods, or we invent certain methods to get these aspirations converted into the product, project, or services, right? And then we try to address certain tactics, certain action areas, like we see in the proliferation in attendance management, right? We'll try to address it with processes, system tools, forms and templates, or different third-party products as well. We try to improve some policies and get them basically implemented or improved with certain forms and templates or certain tools as well. So this is how I work. I take inputs, I collect requirement, I validate them, I try to find the best possible vision, best possible solution for the given problems or for a given challenges my client have, and get it aligned or get it approved and supplied to them, so that their life is easier and I get some revenue in terms of that, right? My company, I means my company earn some revenue for giving solutions or implementing a solution at a client place or with a development partner. That's how the overall analysis thing works, right? So I collect these elements on left, I infer into the elements on the right? So this is a kind of overall philosophical understanding of analysis, what analysis does. Any confusion here? Anything which you couldn't understand?
I think I'm good.
Okay, let's go ahead and try to understand how the requirement gathering process works on a ground, right? So we normally try to build a project, product, or services, and we try to understand how these differ. Let's try to understand what is a project. It's a kind of temporary endeavor. So I have a result in mind and I'm working towards it. That's a project. It can be a software, which I'm going to give it to them as a solution. It can be something like software and hardware mix and match, right? Software is basically the things which you can't see, product or infrastructure which you can see, touch, and feel, right? So implementing an iris scanners need a software and need iris scanner by itself, right? So these two things. So it's a project which comprises of software as well as infrastructure support. Then a product. A pen is a product, right? An iris scanner is a product. If I'm making an iris scanner, so I'm a product company. So I first analyze the market and I try to find where my iris scanner can be sold most, and I then target my marketing staff to go there, build some good looking banners, so that they'll tell why my iris scanner are in the best in the world, and the most economical iris scanner available there too, and those scenarios, and try to market them the best possible way. And then I capture the market with my product, so that I can collect revenue by selling this product. Now, what is services? I build a support services for that iris scanner, which is sold by, let's say, Sony or Philips. So if you have any problem with Sony iris scanner, you can call me, and then I'll try to solve your problem on a phone. Otherwise, I'll go to the next level, try to guide you to solve the problem by doing certain things, or I can take the product and hand it over to the company like Philips, Sony, so that they can get it repaired for you. So I am a channel partner. I am trying to give a service to you so that your life is easier, and I'm supporting you in a way so that I can build revenue streams based on my services, right? And then there's a elicitation. I evolve this vision mission to a requirement, right? And that's what I do as an overall analysis part of it. So analysis is basically analyzing the business, analyzing the requirement, analyzing the challenges business facing, and try to build a try to build a project, product, or services for them, and then document these requirements, list this requirement, convert the vision into the requirement, and then vision to the functionalities, and build a traceability out of it, so that even if something got added on the run, I can trace it back to a different meeting, different event, so that wherever I gather that requirement from. So when I say I want to support you with something called iris scanner, so I need to understand from a table or from a certain paragraph within my table, saying ki this is when I start thinking about iris scanner, and then I discuss this iris scanner supportability within the client or within the stakeholder, and then they've approved it. So this traceability of a business vision to a requirement, to a functionality, and to a product, project, or support is what the traceability is all about. We're going to have the traceability understood clearly in the next couple of slides. So let's try to understand as of now the overall what and how the traceability is. We also already discussed that, but I couldn't stress enough, this is the one of the important part what BA does, because normally anybody within the organizations can come to you, or within the client fraternity also can come to you and ask, could you please take me to when we started including this functionality in the product or project or services. And this questioning happens nowadays even during the scrum meeting also, because we do reprioritize quite a few things depending on the traceability, and we'll understand that in depth as and when the training progresses. And then of course as an BA, it's my responsibility to get sign off or approvals needed for the particular requirement. Okay, let's try to understand from a video. This is a really good video on YouTube which I'm playing it for you, and then I'll share it within the group also, so you can have a look at it whenever you have a free time to understand in depth. Okay, so let me stop share of this presentation. Let me okay, where's the video? Give me a minute please. Okay. Now this is a fellow. It's really given a good idea of how to gather requirement, and he has his own way of explaining. So let's try to understand how we do requirement gathering in a real practical scenario, and let's try to understand from him.
Hello and welcome to my channel. I am the BA tutor, and on this channel today's topic.
Could you hear him? Could you hear his voice?
No.
Is going to be how to do
Now?
Yeah, now it's
okay. Yeah, let's try to understand.
Requirements gathering. So what is requirements gathering? How do you go about it? What are all the steps involved? I'll be walking you guys through that process right now. So obviously the question is how to do requirements gathering. First of all, what is requirements gathering, right? That's the first question, the first step of this entire process. Well, I've got videos where I go into depth about this, about requirements gathering being the main thing that a business analyst does. You guys can go check out those videos. I also have a course, a beginner business analyst course, that I walk through in detail about this process. So if you're interested in that, so essentially requirements gathering and requirements documentation, that is how a business analyst achieves and tries to solve the problem. So again, whatever the problem is going to be for a business analyst, they are going to go ahead and try to elicit the requirements to understand that problem from stakeholders. Okay, so again, I've always drawn this upside down triangle for you guys to remember. So if I've got business, which I'll put short here for bus, the business stakeholders, and I've got the IT developers. You've got the BA that's going to be in the middle, and they are going to go ahead and elicit and gather the requirements from the stakeholders, okay? So they're going to go ahead and get those requirements from the stakeholders. That is going to be the requirements gathering. And then after they gather those requirements, they're going to go ahead and then translate it into a way that the IT developers are going to be able to code it, okay? Because these two entities cannot speak to each other, that is where the business analyst comes into play, and they gather the requirements, and then they elicit, or gather and elicit, and then they translate the requirements, okay?
It's not they can't speak, but normally, IT have their own type of languages, and business do, have their own type of languages and challenges in terms of time, in terms of, basically trying to discuss it through and through. So what they do, business tends to, represent a coordinator, and even from a development partner like Infosys, we are started representing a person. So this is kind of business analyst, right? So he's trying to basically talk in between these two. They can talk, but then talk can go on and on and on, and there could be many discussions. So what we do, we normally represent somebody to talk on my behalf, so that he or she is capable enough, or and armed enough with the tool set, so that he can collect those requirements and come to me, right? And then I can start my work. That's how the whole thing is been matured to. Okay, so let's try to understand.
So that is essentially going to be the first step in terms of understanding what exactly I mean by requirements gathering, okay? What are requirements gathering, and how exactly do you do it, okay? So that's really the first step here. And once you understand this, now we can go ahead and move into the next step, which is understanding really the project for yourself, okay? So as a business analyst, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be assigned a project. Okay, once you're assigned a project, the first thing to do is understand what the project is about. Okay, you're, as a business analyst, a problem solver. Okay, the project is obviously going to have a problem. They are going to have something there that they are either trying to fix, they're trying to achieve, that they are trying to enhance, that they are trying to, find a way to make it work. So whatever that problem is, you need to understand what that problem is, okay? And I use the IT world as my main example here because it's, that's the field that I'm in as a BA. So if it is a software change with a screen, and the project is talking about changing a screen, changing the components of a screen, that's the problem, okay? The problem is that they have a screen that is not as enhanced and optimized as they would like to, and they want to add these components. And whatever those components are, those minute details, those are going to be the requirements that you're going to be gathering. Now, I will get into that in a second here, but just understand you cannot move forward with this until you understand what exactly the project is going to be about, okay? So you can't just go and expect to gather the requirements and you don't know, okay? You need to understand what the problem is. Okay, now hopefully we are all on the same page here and we understand the first step, which is understand the project and what, hopefully you guys can read this, what is the problem being solved, okay? So again, whatever it is, it could be anything. You could be updating a document, you could be updating a screen, you could be, changing a back end or front end. It doesn't matter, but you have to figure out what it is, whatever that problem is that you are solving, understand it. Once you have understood it, and now you know, okay, I know what the problem is, I know what we're trying to solve, I know what we're trying to do. Now it's time to go ahead and set up meetings with the stakeholders, okay? your meetings with the business stakeholders. So once I've understood the problem, I'm ready now to go ahead and move on to gather these requirements. So again, the example I always use, which is easy to understand, is a screen being updated, okay? You've got a screen, a software that the company wants to optimize, the business, I should say, the business stakeholders want to optimize. They've got a bunch of different things they want to do to this page, and they expect you as the business analyst to be able to understand all of the changes so that the developers can go ahead and then code those changes and update the screen. So since you understood that that's a problem to update the screen, now you set up the meeting with the stakeholders, okay, to do what? To do what I like to call discover. Okay, now again, requirements gathering, requirements elicitation, same thing. You're discovering the requirements, okay? All right. I'm talking to my stakeholders now. I'm understanding. Okay, we are trying to change this screen, okay? And I know the reason why we're trying to do it. It's not as optimized. And now the question becomes, how or what are these specific changes, okay? So as the BA, you need to ask the right questions. You need to make sure that no stone is unturned. Ask everything about the requirements, okay? So I'll use the example of the screen. What are all the components being changed, being impacted, okay? And what are the, impacts for these other changes that we're not touching? So if it's a toggle, if it's a button, is it, something that we're doing to optimize, a certain area? Like, you have to make sure that you are covering every single thing. So if the business says, basically it's simple, we're going to add 3 buttons on the page, and we're going to go ahead and maybe, remove this portion of it, and we want the screen to be a little, shorter, the text to change, the color should be this and that. So make sure you obviously ask all the right questions, and all the right questions are going to be making sure that all of the requirements are being captured. Now, again, this is also going to depend on the methodology. That you take. So you can have an agile versus a waterfall. Waterfall here. I don't know what I was writing there. Waterfall methodology. Now, again, these are 2 different methodologies. If you're not aware, check out my other videos. I also talk about this in my course again. And depending on this, this is really going to help you out, because what you're trying to do here, not just obviously understand all the requirements and capture every single one, you're trying to lock down the scope, okay? Because here's the thing. In an agile format, the scope, making sure that it's locked down, it doesn't have to be, as strict and stringent, because you've got multiple sprints where you can maybe make multiple changes. But in a waterfall methodology, once they said, we're adding 3 buttons, and then they come back, the business, and says, no, we actually want 4, it's going to be tough to change it. So that's why I'm saying you want to make sure you ask all the right questions so that the business knows that these are the requirements that you've laid out to me, and I'm going ahead and I'm capturing those. You also want to make sure that you are asking the why. Now, again, you understand the project, but you also want to know, okay, you said we're adding 2 buttons here, but can we do 1 and, make it more efficient? Do we need 3 here? Like, those are the questions you need to ask, because if they just tell you, it's not just going to be enough for you as the BA to just take it and write it down. You have to ask the why. You have to understand, really, okay, the reasoning for why we need 2 versus 3. Can we reduce it? Can we, go to 1? So ask all those questions. Make sure all of that is covered. And obviously methodology is going to play a part in here. And then finally, step number 3 is going to be the obvious step, is you're going to begin writing the requirements. Okay? So different ways to capture it. Again, depends on methodology. If you go by agile methodology, you're going to do user stories. If you go by waterfall methodologies, you'll do something called a BRD, a business requirements document. Now, these are different ways to capture the requirements, but for the most part, it depends on methodology. But yeah, you can go ahead and you can start writing your requirements once you have done the discovery. Now, when I say set up meetings, these are meetings, plural, multiple ones, okay? More than likely, you're not going to get all the requirements in one meeting, or you'll have questions that come up, or you'll have concerns, comments, etc. And so you're probably going to need more than 1 or 2 meetings. And so once you've done all that, then you can go ahead and begin your writing requirements. But again, you don't have to wait to write the requirements until all of this is done. You can start this process and still do this and keep adding to it. Just make sure you understand that by the time you get all of the requirements, the scope doesn't change depending on the methodology that that your project is in. Okay, so essentially that is how you do it. How you do requirements gathering. You go ahead and you understand the project. You understand what is the problem being solved. You set up discovery meetings with the business stakeholders, and then you go ahead and you obviously determine the methodology of the project, and then you begin writing the requirements. So hopefully that helps you guys out. If it does, please make sure you give this video.
So, we understand, right? We understood how basically, we are trying to collect requirement, how we're trying to build these things. Only the labels are a bit different. And now what we can call BRD comes from the client. BRD is business requirement document. So business requirement is for the client, from the clients comes to us, and we build system requirement on based of that. So system requirement is first step from business towards the development partner, creating a product, solution, or services. Okay, there's a bit of difference here, and in every culture or every organizations, there's a bit of such differences, and we need to learn. So whenever you join an organizations, they will have some something called induction program. So they will induce as an employee. So you're going to join their group, and they'll guide you on their policies, processes, and such nomenclature what we use. So they'll guide you what you do as an employee, what you do as a business analyst, where's the tea machine, where's the coffee machine, how we can order the nearest pizza, and so on and so forth. So this is done in induction program, and every mature organizations have at least 3 to 5 days of such induction program for each and every new joinee, so that you can understand in depth about the environment, about the frameworks, about the methodology they follow, about the template you use, about the cloud services you use, what are your username, password, what are what are the timing we have the meetings normally set up, because in US we normally have something called flexi timing. So you can come and off whenever you want to, but you need to inform your reporting authority on such, and then he or she will plan the meetings accordingly. That's how it happens. Does anybody have any question for me at this moment?
I'm good.
Have you understood how the requirements are gathered?
Yes.
Okay, great. Super. Any question for me at this moment?
We are good. We are good.
We are good. Okay, great. Now we're going to learn different, training capsules throughout this training. So we'll try to understand the requirement tool sets first. We'll try to do our hands dirty on certain tools and techniques of requirement gathering. Then we move to quality assurance, QA, quality control, that is QC. Then we'll try to understand the agile framework, which is an industry standard now. And then we're going to use certain methodologies or certain, disciplined way of implementing agile in a given organization called Scrum. Okay. So we'll have detailed workshops, throughout this training, and we'll try to learn step by step, right? So, that's how we'll walk through. So by the end of this training, I believe you will be the one of the, best BA, which have all the required tools and techniques, including some additional value add, so that you understand the QA/QC process. You can be a Scrum Master, so you can be a really crucial resources to the organization. So if in case of laid off, you will not be gone, forgone so easily. So you'll be a crucial employee. As an BA, you are a visible employee, you are a critical employee, but with the other skill set which are supporting to this role, will make sure you as an important asset to the organization. That's how this training has been planned, right? So let's take a step ahead. Now this is again a slide from PMI, the Project Management Institute, which depicts requirement gathering as a very crucial and important task, as it defines the vision, defines the overall scope of the project. So let's try to understand how they perceive the requirement gathering as an inputs and output scenarios, right? Because everything has certain inputs and certain outputs, right? So we need to understand from this perspective as well. So as an BA, we collect requirement. It's a process of determining, documenting, and managing stakeholder needs. Now see, there are three things here. Process of determining. So there's a decision making in place. There's understanding, and on top of that, we are deciding certain thing for our client. Then we document that, and then we manage the stakeholder. So even certain things which we might decide not to go ahead with, right? Even some certain stakeholder can come to you and saying mera wala lal, mera wala green. So those kind of scenario you can ignore. You have to ignore, and we'll learn how we do it. We have to get aligned with the needs and the requirement to meet this objective at organizational level, right? So stakeholder management is also one of the important part of the overall BA. Even determining the correct requirement or validating the requirement and getting approved, it's a kind of serious importance factor we do as an BA day in day out, right? The key benefit of this process is to provide the basis for defining the product and project scope. So we are defining the product. So we are trying to decide on the basis of on the discussions with our client organizations, the scope of a product and project which Infosys as a development partner is going to develop for them and give them back, right? So me as a crucial element of the whole project fraternity or development partners fraternity, trying to work on a solution for a partner which is outside my current company, and trying to build and decide what the best suitable scenario and best feasible scenario for them as well, right? So these are the different things which I decide on the basis of my discussion, decide on basis of the approval which I require, which I have got it from the clients itself. The process is performed once at or predefined point in the project. As we see, agile methodology as a principle, whatever we use, we do this iteratively. The inputs and output of these processes are as follows. So we have inputs, we have a project charter, we understood the project management plan. There are different plans in this. To be precise, there are 10 plans, but as a business analyst, I'm mostly concerned about 3 plans in that, right? Then we create project documents. We basically try to include BRD as an input, and we create requirement documentation, that's the SRS, as an output. We understand business documents. So there are certain client supplied materials which come on my table, like they'll prefer if somebody's wish list is they'll prefer Sony's iris scanner. It can come to me as an business document. They'll send a picture saying this business can Philips iris scanner is really good, and I have used in my previous company, so please try to include this thing in solution. This thing happens. So these are what we call as a client supplied material. These are the business documents which come from client as a supporting fact for the given product, project or support. And then there are agreements. There are signed agreements given by the clients to our organization as an Infosys, because it's an organizational engagement. Then we try to define enterprise environmental factors and organizational processes and assets. These are all environments I work in. These are the quality processes and procedure which we follow within Infosys and within client fraternity as well. And there are certain additional requirements based on the governments I worked with. If there are any restrictions or regulation for working with certain facts and figure, for working with certain type of substances, certain type of instruments, and so on and so forth. So those needs, I need to include those things. And what I do as an output, I create SRS, system requirement specifications. I create a requirement traceability matrix. Is there any confusion on these, on understanding these inputs and outputs? This will be the basis for overall BA's training. Okay. So if you have any confusion, please speak up now. I believe we are good, right? You understood every word of this. If there are any confusion, I can solve at a later stage as well. Please don't, please don't feel like this is the last, time I'm asking this question. I'll keep these, asking questions. If you have any confusion, please speak up and please ask the questions. Okay. Now we've seen all the positive things. Let's take a step back and try to understand the negative things. How the poor requirement gathering can impact, so that we must not do such things, right? So let's try to understand from a business perspective. We are trying to collect strategic goals. We are trying to also address certain competitive positions or market compliance, and we have to collect all these details, elements, or document these things within our SRS, so that I'll have a perfect scope. I have to understand the non-performance requirement to address the budget and timelines as well. Budgeting again is not my purview as a business analyst. It's done at a CIO, CXO level or a financial consultant level, but I am an reviewer or what I can say, advisory perspective. So I can suggest certain things which may affect the return on investment or the budgetary decisions, but I am in an advisory thing. Then I also make sure I want to make the market compliance. I need to understand the stakeholder engagement. I need to manage their wish list, include their wish list within my project scope, project, product, or support scope, and then plan it effectively. I need to understand the to build the business process efficiency as well, and I have to create something called positive user experience. So what is positive user experience? So whoever is going to use the system must have actually a positive upbringing or a positive feeling about usage of system. Like whenever somebody moves from something like signing a ledger to an iris scanner, he feels, okay, now I'm embracing the technology. So I am moving ahead in my life. As a human, I am a person who tends to evolve, who tends to make life easier. So the positive user experience talks about getting bigger, being more techno advanced, or being more uses of technology. So those are different. And then I need to understand the bottom lines also. So what business needs, what business actual needs are to be understood by BA in depth, so that we can clearly convey the solution in the right directions. We can clearly build the software specifications clearly in line with the overall IT needs or the business needs as shared by the vision in subsequent meetings with me, right? And then I need to also understand the cohesive IT landscape. What it talks about the system which client currently has. So when I'm trying to suggest something to State Farm, I need to understand what are the different IT scenario, IT technologies they are using currently, so that my new attendance enhancement management system is perfectly in line with whatever they have been using, and it fits within those IT landscape, so that they can utilize it effectively. And this is all me as an analyst do. So what can go wrong? I have to really understand the impact of the overall whatever vision I have clearly conceived, or the vision I have converted from a vision to a requirements which has to be given to the State Farm, has been clearly understood by me, clearly understood within the environmental scope, within the cohesive landscape, so that whatever requirement I'm going to give will create a positive user experience, will create a great impact on their day-to-day working. It will make their take their efficiency to the next level. It will make their life easy, and I'll create the business requirement which can create the positive impact. And then overall, if I have a small slippage in my requirement gathering, it can cripple the whole business requirement document. Then it can cripple the overall functional or non-functional requirement list as well. So I need to really understand the requirement in depth, work on it minutely, there are certain processes and framework in place. So that I told you, right? I normally record every meeting. I normally try to analyze the meeting again whenever I'm trying to build the requirement list, so that I must not forget or or skip any requirement. So the maximum requirement, whatever shared by the client, I'll list it down, I'll validate it, I'll get it approved, and then move forward for building certain functional and non-functional requirement for those things, so that whatever product my company, my organizations, Infosys is going to give it to the State Farm, has all the requirement which have been given to me as an in business vision and validated and approved, will include the product, project or support, whatever my company is going to give back to the State Farm as a result of the whole discussions and the whole development of the product, project or scope. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
Yeah, okay.
This also depicts a small error in a start can cause a big dramatic effect at the end. So me as a vision starter, me as a basic visionary stakeholder in the whole designing of vision to requirement, play a very crucial part. So I need to check, recheck. That's why that person said I need to do repetitive meeting, repetitive call, so that whatever I take down as a requirement is completely in line with the business goal, and it's in a concise format, it's in a complete nails by itself. That's how the importance of each and every line which I include in the SRS does reflect or does create a vision at the end, which is really going to be act as a project, product or support and given to the client on a whole. Okay, so anybody have any question for me at this moment? Anything you want me to explain again in depth?
I'm good.
We are going to do this, means as a person, we are trying to collect the requirement, we're trying to build an SRS by ourselves also. So all these factors play an important part. Okay. Now, this is a slide. I took it from the BA book, Business Analyst book, which normally referred as a great document for all BA practices, right? So we are trying to understand how different role they interact with each other, right? And there are certain roles which we'll still couldn't understand well, but let's try to understand from a colleague perspective. So business analyst working with a PA, working with a project manager, working with product owner, working with a overall strategist level, and the other things as well. So let's, the three roles I have depicted here: BA working with a PO and PM. These three are the most crucial roles in the whole project, product or solution history. Believe me, BA is a kickstarter. He starts the whole vision, mission, and those things, right? PM is a guy who creates, who constructs these things, and product owner who reviews and approves these things in a day by day, day in, day out. So product owner is basically a chairperson of every reprioritization meeting in our overall agile framework. So, okay, let's try to understand the interaction between these three, the overlaps and the exclusion of these three, so that we can understand the BA's responsibility well in advance. And as a person, what I would really suggest is try to understand or try to map your personal trait with these workings, so that we can get aligned towards the next career move also. So as an BA, that can be your first stepping stone. Next, you can be a product owner with Scrum certification or those certification, or if you want to be a PM, project manager, you can have those type of certification as well. There are certain certification available for BA as well. So we need to understand where I want to grow, which skill set suits me the best as in personality, right? So that's also you need to start understanding or analyzing on your own. Let's go ahead with the BA first. So understanding business is the need of a BA. Clarifying details, questioning, quantifying, trying to get each and every detail from a business delegate, so that we can understand the vision and the mission completely in a crystal clear way, so that I can list or convert them or formalize them in all the requirements, and basically get it built into a strategic alignment for the solution. Even I collect the functional and non-functional requirement as well, so that whatever product, project or solution I give it to the client is in line with whatever thought process I have created, I have built, right? Now, how I interact with the PM. Now, project manager is a person who going to create the project, product or support, whatever services, whatever we have envisioned in the SRS. So this SRS, the system requirement specification document, I hand it over to the project management, right? The project manager or project managers, depending on differences with the way vision is moving ahead, right? So we normally work hand in hand for steering towards the goal, because we are trying to engage two big organizations working together on a new product, project or support, right? So we try to finalize the overall strategy for building this new goal, new result, new project, product or services. We define the scope, we control the scope, we build this business case, we build this justification for the said project, product and services, so that its implementation should achieve or must achieve the exact the most efficient result, right? And we also do some alternative analysis for different product available in the market, different return on the investment type of scenario, the budgeting type of scenario. Again, we try to understand from different parties to how to build a better product, how to construct a better project, product or solution. And we collaborate with all the stakeholder, we collaborate with project manager also for modeling these product, project or services, and building these product, project or services, and making it a reality with all the options and proposal we have in hand, right? Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
I'm good.
Okay, great. So we understood the BA and PM. Now let's go and understood product owner and BA. So product owner builds a product strategy. Product owner is normally from the client side, because he started with the vision, right? So he understood what it needs and how it should be enhanced or evolved to. Okay, so this is a client, what we're talking about, a senior most person in the client, which can dictate the strategy, which can change the overall business case also, which can also give a new idea to whatever functionality to be implemented, which can change the priorities, which can change the overall scenarios and the environment which we are working with. So he can give a complete good decisions if we need to decide to go with iris scanner, fingerprint scanner or a body scanner, or 10 different things, whatever it can be included in the project scope. So PO is a person who actually approves the scope, who approves the business vision, the customer focus in a scenario. So me as a business analyst, I am the kind of mediator, I am the pipe between a PO and a BM. So I take a vision from a PO and give it to the PM in just one single sentence, right? So BA is a mediator between PO and PM, as Devji explained in the last training, whenever we're trying to understand how BA works with this in day out. Okay, I believe we are almost at the end of our training session as of today, and I'll repeat this thing in the next session also, so that we can understand in depth how these three important roles works in a cohesive synergy, and how we need to take help from PO and a PM in day out, right? Anybody have any questions as of now, or he or she couldn't understand, or I can make to understand them better? Please go ahead.
I'm okay.
We are good.
Okay, you're good, right? Okay, thanks a lot. See, I need some responses actually, so that I can go ahead, or I can think more on that one. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Last time we've discussed homework for you, right? So whenever, if I work on a business requirement of understanding anti-gravity pen, right? So have anybody thought on that line?
I did little bit, but I was like really not sure if I was going on the right track.
Please don't worry, ma'am, on that. Please go ahead and share your vision so that we can discuss it along. And believe me, this is a kind of exceptional scenario every BA comes across, many times. So we need to understand how we can handle it diplomatically, how we can do it, or how we can cope up with the situation. Okay. So, ma'am, please go ahead.
See, the business vision I thought was, it's like two, I was first of all confused that business vision, our project is to either manufacture the anti-gravity pen, or how to design it or how to market it. So I just took it as, like how to market it. The stakeholders, they already have manufactured the pen. Now they want to know how they sell it and how they were not doing good, and now they want to increase their sale. And
Right.
so that was the problem. I took it as my business vision, that how to help them make this pen super cheap and popular.
Right.
So
Ma'am, I believe we've discussed both the angles. Means, it's great like you thought on one, but please don't worry. Please go ahead with your synopsis.
So first of all, you have to find out who are at present, who are their end users for the pen.
Right.
They have to get the information, determine like how they increase. So as of right now, who's using it? So only, let's say, people who travel a lot, who travel or fly a lot, they use this pen so that, there's no ink getting dry, and also it can work on all the variations. So now they want to increase the sales. So we have to find out how we can do it and how we help them achieve their target. Right. So that you have to first determine the quality and the durability of the pen, then who will be using it and why will they use it, other than the scientists and the people who travel a lot or fly a lot, they use it. And how can marketing, I don't think it was the right thing, because we're not involved with their marketing.
Yeah, we don't plan in marketing as a business analyst. That's right.
Right.
That's the right assumption.
Then we have to ask question, okay, why would a common man can spend the money on this pen? Because they already know that NASA failed. They spend millions of dollars on this pen and they failed, whereas versus Russian astronauts were using pencils. So those things we have to consider it and ask question to them, why. So what is main thing we have to ask? What do they want to achieve by that? What do they want to do? Who they want to target? And that's the business vision. And then you do the research with a subject matter specialist or different other cases in past, and then develop a plan.
Right. Perfect. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Means you did the part really great. Anybody else have tried? See, this is a really crucial learning. Means what I would really love to have is at least 10 to 5 minutes synopsis of how you as a person will progress in such scenarios. And that's really important, because that's how what you can say depicts your overall handling challenges or handling difficult times scenario as well. For me, what I would have done, I've gone on Google, search on who have ever created such product before. So what I found there's a company called
Fisher.
I forgot the name of the company.
Fisher.
Fishers, right?
NASA
Fishers.
did it with Fisher.
Exactly. And they have their pen. Even they've started marketing it at least as around, I think, $65 or $64 or something like that per piece. Yeah, it's a costly one, definitely. They use some technology called highly pressurized ink pods. In case if you're using ink, if you're using refills, they used certain forcing mechanism. Yeah. So those kind of scenario. So how they cope up with these anti-gravity thing? They try to use pressure to for the ink flowing. Okay. So this pressure helps to force the ink through the tip, so that your writing will not get interrupted at any time. That's the overall solution to the problem of gravity, because gravity pulls down everything downwards. So if you're trying to write on top of, let's say, on your topmost wall, you need to have anti-gravity pen. So those kind of scenario. So that's how we cope up with such difficult times. That's how we come up with a solution, right? So this is really crucial. And I don't want to, you ever think like, anything couldn't be done. You have to try, you have to, walk that extra path. As an VA, you are really visible role. I believe you couldn't understand right now, but whenever you join some organization, Infosys, Wipro, TCS, whatever it may be, but you are a very visible role. You normally interact with CEOs, CTOs of the world on day in, day out, and they come to you as a consultant and an advisor. And many of the times we are not expert of those domain, but still we need to, what you can say, we need to find a way out in things. Like we might tell them, hey CEO, please give me half an hour so, and I'll come back to on that. So what you do in those half an hour, I'll go to Google, I'll call a couple of my friends and ask, अरे बॉस तूने इसमें काम किया था ना वो एंटी ग्रेविटी वाला, मेरे को बताना क्या होता है. So something like this, or you go to Google and ask Google, so who have, and why, what the hell is this bloody anti-gravity pen, and why we need it? So I'll Google it, and then I'll discuss it with my CEO, CTO as an expert, so that I'll be really appreciated. I'll get awards for such things, such scenario. So don't look at challenge as a challenge, look at challenge as an opportunity to grow, opportunity to take your life or a career to the next level. That's how it works with the BA. And believe me, this is really important learning for all of us. I'll not, hold you captive for this training. Thanks a lot for your time. If you have any question, please feel free to ask anytime. I'll share that requirement gathering video on the group so that you can, go through it and understand in depth. And we'll discuss again how the, BA, PO and PM work closely with each other in our next class. Our next class is on Monday. You have a class tomorrow at same time with the older batch, and I will request all of you to participate or to be there so that you can also understand a thing or two on Scrum and Agile also. Richa ma'am is really great mentor, and she's ample of experience. She's playing a Scrum Master role from last, I think, 5 or 6 years. So she has in-depth knowledge of how Scrum works in, day out, how product owner can interact with BA on, normally daily meeting or weekly sprint meeting and whatnot. So it will give you another, level of thought process, even within the BA responsibility as well. Okay. So be there on our time tomorrow as well. Any question for me at this moment?
No, I'm good.
Please pardon me for stretching the class for so long, but yes, flow of learning, I think this happens. So please pardon me on that.
Thank
you have a good night, and you can ask if you have any questions anytime, and you're most welcome to discuss or fight with me as well. Please don't worry. And I love fights. I love difference of opinion. I might wrong some of the time. So please don't worry about that. We are learning together. That's how I want to put it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Take care.
Thank you.